Welcome, fellow enthusiasts of the unexplained, to Sasquatch Watch Radio. If you're as fascinated by the elusive, legendary creature known as Bigfoot, you've found your new home here on Sasquatch Watch Radio. We're diving deep into everything Bigfoot. From thrilling eyewitness accounts and compelling scientific theories to the latest research, expeditions, and even a little bit of the folklore that surrounds this enigmatic being, we'll explore it all. Whether you're a seasoned squatcher or just curious about the giant hairy dude in the woods, you're in the right place. Get ready to have your perceptions challenged, your curiosity piqued, and maybe, just maybe, you'll start looking at the shadows in the forest a little differently. So settle in, turn up your speakers, and let's journey together into the heart of the Sasquatch mystery. This is Sasquatch Watch Radio, and the hunt for truth begins now. Here is your host, Garry Kendrick.
Hey everybody, I want to welcome everybody to Sasquatch Watch Radio. Tonight is Monday, September the 22nd, 2025, and we have an outstanding show this evening. We'll be having a roundtable. We've got Dave Rupert, Luke Gross, and Gwendolyn Purcell on tonight, and I'll bring everybody on board and we'll get started. Oh Lord, I've lost Dave.
Hey, there I am.
There we go. There we go. There's everybody. All right, I'm gonna hop right into it. If you guys are ready, everybody ready?
Sure am.
Go. All right, we'll start. I'll start with Luke, and then we'll do Gwendolyn, and then we'll go down to Dave. Okay. So, what is the best Sasquatch evidence outside of the Patterson-Gimlin film?
The best Sasquatch evidence?
Yes,
oh my
sir.
goodness. That's a tough one.
It is.
That's probably the hardest question. The best is, as far as I'm concerned, I would have to say a lot of the DNA that's been recovered. And but to me it's all personal. You know, I like finding foot tracks, hair samples, recording vocalizations, something that you could compare to other known species of animal. So I guess to me that's the most important.
Excellent. Gwendolyn.
Oh, geez. I'd have to say it's my own experiences, only because I know them to be true, because I was there and I witnessed it and I experienced it. So that's everything else, that I wasn't there for is subject to speculation.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know some people, how they're, if they're truthful or not. So
Excellent. Dave.
Well, I would agree with both of them. First off, is the personal experiences is an important thing to me, and but and of course the DNA. But I think a really compelling thing for me is the dermal ridges that they're finding in some of the tracks. Is very interesting. Yeah. I think that it's a big tell. I think even more than the DNA, because really we have nothing to match it up with. But it kind of brings some reality to it whenever you're finding almost fingerprints or toe prints, or like your fingerprints inside of a cast is interesting.
Yeah, that is good. And just my own personal opinion, and I agree with all three of you guys. That's excellent stuff. I think my own personal opinion is the best evidence would have to be just the sheer amount of footprints that have been cast. Now, granted, not all of the footprints that have been cast are authentic. Some of them are questionable, things like that. But there are certain things within those casts, such as the dermal ridges, or you might come across, like in the cripplefoot cast, an anomaly that
Yeah.
shows some type of injury or something like that. But I think just the sheer number of casts that are out there that coincide with someone's own, personal sightings, I think that is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
This is another
I can-
tough. Go ahead, Luke.
Let me interject. You're absolutely right about the footprints. I found a track outside of Honey Grove, Texas, in a cedar forest, and this track was missing. The only thing left was the big toe. The other digits were gone. And cast this track, and I found the same footprint, 78 miles away on the Sulphur River. It's the same identical footprint. So to me, that also shows that they can travel. Shows you, okay, this track's here, and I found it 78 miles away. That gives you some idea of how far they're traveling. So you can also learn things like that from their footprints if you can find the same identical tracks.
That's very compelling, and too, it's not only are we finding adult size footprints and anywhere between 15 to 18 inches, or some people even say 20 and 24. I personally never found anything that large, but you're also finding juvenile footprints, 8 and 10-inch range, and they have the exact same. And they're most of the time the smaller footprints are side by side with a larger print. And those prints have the smaller prints have the exact same foot morphology and everything else as the larger tracks. So yeah, it's a big thing for me. I've only found 2 good ones in the whole time that I've ever been researching, and one of them was this year with my nephew, and the other one was in a spot in Spotsylvania County, and it was a really good one.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, the next question is going to be a tough one too, and we'll start with Luke again this time. Is that okay if we just keep going in the same circle?
Absolutely.
That's fine.
That's easier for you. Let's just do that.
Yeah. What is the one misconception about Sasquatch?
To me,
Yes, sir.
everybody says that they're apes. Well, we're all great apes, but a lot of people consider them just another ape that roams the forest, and that's a huge, huge misconception from what I've seen.
Very good. Gwendolyn.
I'd have to say, and this is just my experience talking, that I don't think they migrate. I don't think they're going to Florida for the winter, and I don't think they're going to Maine for the summer. You know what I'm saying? In my personal opinions, I mean, I live 15 miles from Centralia, where these creatures could be. Centralia, if you don't know, has been on fire since the 1960s.
Yes,
the mine's caught on fire, and you can go drive through there in the wintertime and see steam coming up out of the ground. And I just think if you were a large individual, there's plenty of food, there's plenty of water. I think they're going to stay right here. As long as they can sustain themselves here, they're going to stay here. I don't think they travel very far. I mean, maybe like Luke said, he found, or who was Gary? You said about it. You found a track that was like 78 miles away from a track.
That was Luke.
That was Luke.
Yeah. That was me. Yeah.
I think they have a range, kind of like a bear, but I don't think they're traveling long distances like to Florida or to Maine. I just think that's crazy.
Okay, Dave.
I would have to say the biggest misconception, and then I might be in the minority here. I'm not sure, but that they're flesh and blood. Yeah, I think that's a big misconception. So, the one thing that I do think, though, well, yeah, I'm just going to stay right there.
I think I'm going to go with the biggest misconception that I see is the TV shows. And I'll explain that.
Oh, yeah.
Because you go on to you got people that's never actually been on a expedition or anything like that, and they see these TV shows and they think that from the minute that you step in the woods, it is continuous Bigfoot activity. Okay. 90% of Sasquatch research It's a
Mhm.
bunch of jokers just like us sitting in a field
Mhm.
wasting our time. 10% you got activity.
Yeah.
10% you
You
got activity.
yep,
And it's
to be
go
out there,
ahead.
you got to be really happy with being with yourself, and you also have to be happy, in the forest, because like you said, it's not excitement all the time,
No.
and
Nope.
it's just. Mhm.
I've been married for 28 years, and I think my wife is glad to get rid of me sometime. Okay,
Oh,
this is another good one. Best personal experience.
Oh my gosh. The, that that there was a lot of them, and it wasn't my first encounter either. It was my I've had a lot of encounters with them. I want to say it was in Hallsville, Texas, and there was 11 witnesses there all at the same time. I believe I told the story before, where they come in. We went to a conference, and there was some people that wanted to go to this graveyard. It was a slave cemetery, is what it was, old. And so we went out there, and we had this amazing encounter with roars, rocks thrown, multiple roars coming from all different directions, and having somebody pass out because he was so scared, and they were kind of tonic. But that was probably one of my favorite ones because there's a lot of witnesses there and can verify
Mhm.
and do different testimony. But that
Excellent.
one and the roar, I've been roared at, stormtrooped out of the woods by them, so trees pulled up, all kinds of stuff like that. So but the one in Hallsville, that was the best.
Excellent. Gwendolyn.
I wish I had an experience for every time I went out in the woods, but that just doesn't happen. But I will never forget the night I woke up at Salt Fork, Ohio, and I was sleeping in the back of my Bronco, and I pulled into against the woods. So I woke up at 4 a.m. to something standing directly behind my truck, and I know that I would have had to drive through it to park where I was parked. And as big and bad as I like to think I am, I started to panic because I was like, don't blink, don't move. Because if he hears you or sees you, Lord knows what's going to happen. But I took home a very beautiful handprint on the back of my Bronco, and it had dermal ridges. It was about 17 inches wide. So
Woo.
Man,
that was a pretty nice handprint on the back of my car. But I drove home praying that it wasn't going to rain and mess up my handprint, and parked it in the garage and lifted it with some tape, and I framed it, and I take it with me when I go to speak at places because you just can't believe it. I couldn't believe about the dermal ridges. It was excellent.
That is really good.
Mm-hmm.
Dave, what you got?
Well, I'm going to say my very first encounter with something. Unfortunately, I can't sit here and tell you I saw anything. As far as I can't tell you I saw Bigfoot or anything like that. But I had experiences, and it was my very first one, and it's where I became a very much a true believer. And it was shared with Billy Willard and a few others. And I think I talked about it one time on this show.
I believe you
That
did.
yeah, we were down in Salt Fork, and we were down below the handicap area. We're down
Oh, yeah.
in the bottom down in there, and where I remember Billy, and he had a friend there, and I cannot remember his name, but he had military grade night vision, and we could hear something circling us, and at one point or another, they we he pulled up the night vision, and he saw something, and so he shared it with all of us, and you could see three different creatures, I guess, for lack of a better word. What they kind of did was kind of playing that peekaboo from behind a tree. No,
Oh
we
yeah.
couldn't make, mhm. And we couldn't make them out for sure. I mean, what exactly it was. It appeared to be very high as far as height goes. Um, And at the same at that time, we had the monkey ball fruit was thrown at us, and a large log. So and again, just like Luke said, it was one of my favorites because we had a lot of people there to there was about 5 or 6 of us there. So I wasn't the only one having that experience, and it was a shared experience, and it kind of lends some credibility to it. So yeah,
I
that
have
would
to
be.
say, probably my favorite. Uh, we was in an area in Spotsylvania, and then this was I'm telling you, that place is hot. Every night we was there, we had something.
Mm,
But I decided that I was going to do an experiment with my vehicle, which I had a 2003 Jeep Wrangler at the time. It was a Rubicon.
yeah.
And that was the same vehicle that I was driving when I had my personal sighting. Well, anyway, I decided I was going to drive out into the woods up this little logging road or whatever and back in up against this little creek. And me and another guy were in the Jeep. And just out of the blue, there was this huge noise, and the whole Jeep shook. And I looked over at the guy that was with me, and I was like, "Dude, did you hear that?" And he's like, "I felt that." He said, "Did you do that?" And I was like, "How am I going to do that? I'm sitting right here. I can't shake the whole Jeep." And I said, "Let's get out and take a look around." And he's like, "No, hang on a minute, baby." And I said, "Okay." And then we sat there just for a minute, and he said, "I think it's trying to crawl up under your Jeep." And I said, "Well, let's get out and take a look." And he's like, "No, hang on a minute, baby." So he was a little nervous about it, but when we finally got out, there was nothing there. And there was a place on the back tire of the Jeep where it had smacked that back tire and shook that Jeep. And then the next day, I found a partial imprint where something had stepped into the bank beside the creek and left toe prints into the side of the bank
Ooh.
and had pulled up. But that's probably one of my favorites. Okay, this is another one. And I have another question that's going to sound similar to this. But family unit or Lone Ranger? Do you think Bigfoot is working in family units or are they just individual?
Both. I believe they're both. I've been in areas where you find just one one type of track and it's the same track everywhere. Then I've been in other areas where it's family groups. And I've got photographs. We found a trackway of a female uh, walking. It was just a female. And then you see these, it could have been a male, but I have a feeling it was a female by the shape of the foot. That's why I was mentioned to Dave about the curved track he had. But anyway, we're following this trackway, and all of a sudden, these little infant foot, about not even 5.5, 6 inches long, showed up next to this set of tracks. And these tracks were 15 inches long, and the other ones I think, were like 7 inches. And they walked side by side, and the bigger set of tracks went and walked to a log. You could fall right to this log, sat down on this deadfall log, and the little tracks went to the creek, and it stood there, and it moved around, and then it jumped down into the creek, and we found where some cane had been, the tops of this cane had been being eaten by the one sitting on the log. There was a piece of cane that was pulled up there. So yeah, the trackways and the evidence like that, yeah, it's cool.
Gwendolyn.
I agree with Luke. I think depends on the area and what's going on. I think there's Lone Rangers and I think there's family units. I know I at least have what I believe to be anyway a juvenile and an adult on the property that attaches to mine. I've got them on game trail cameras with the eye shine, and there's definitely a 9-footer and a 6-footer, and I strongly believe it's an adult and a juvenile.
Excellent. Dave?
Well, I tend to agree with the other two, Lone Rangers and also family groups. But I often wondered, I give it a lot of thought, and these are just my thoughts. Is that I would think if you were trying to stay undetected, that you would tend to keep your family groups at low numbers. I don't think that they run in groups like a gaggle. You know what I mean? I think that they would keep it at small numbers.
I would have to agree with you because I found tracks, not multiple tracks, different tracks, but of the same female I was talking about, which I believe is a female, and a young one, and in a larger 17-inch track that was in the same creek bed that the baby jumped down, except it had walked up the creek. But as far as finding, sets of tracks that belong to 7 or 8 different individuals, I've never found that before.
Mm-hmm.
And it got to the point in one area that we researched this area for a lot of years. We would find tracks and we say, oh, look, another track. Would we cast it? No, because we were seeing so many tracks. And but it was interesting. There was a family group on one side of the lake, of the river, and there was a separate family group on the other side, but they never met in the middle. They never come together. I found that pretty interesting.
That is pretty cool.
At least to my knowledge, they never came together.
To the best of my knowledge, the way I'd like to put it is both. And I think it kind of works like a lot of other animal groups to where you have a family unit, but once, like you might have a young male, but once he gets to be a certain size, I believe that he's kind of put off on his own to where I'll use the words of Thomas Seawood. If you always have to beware of the rogue. That's either the adult male that's been put out of his clan by a younger male, or a younger male that's been put out of his clan to find his own people. So, yeah, I believe it's both. I've got a comment here I want to post. Mick says, Gary, Rupert got you beat for the Sasquatch Christmas Santa Parade. That's a good one. I'll go ahead and ask the other question that's similar to that, if that's okay with you guys. The next question is large groups, like 10 or 12, or family groups, 3 or 4?
Family groups, 3 or 4. That's what I found. Tracks of separate ones, 3. Like I was telling, I think I answered your question before you asked it, but definitely just small groups, 3.
Yeah.
Maybe 4. Maybe an adult male, a female adult, an adolescent, and a infant.
Yeah.
But haven't found any more than that. And I've seen a lot of footprints. I have, but they're all separate, like the single big toe track. And it wound up in the same area I was talking about. So I think it was probably a rogue.
Could be. Could be. Gwendolyn?
I'd have to say small groups of 3 or 4. I think if you had anything larger than that, you'd be spotting them.
Yeah.
If you had too big a group, people are going to see them. Yeah.
Dave, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. And like I said before, if you want to stay hidden, you don't walk around with a bunch. It's just the way it goes. Yeah.
I'll be honest. I'm kind of torn on that question. I think it's a family group for the most part, but I think maybe at like certain times of the year that they may come together. And I'm not going to say it's going to be like 30, animals there at one time, 30 Sasquatch there at one time. It may be, 6 or 8 or something like that for the purposes of maybe breeding or something like that. So I think they may come together like that.
I could see what you're talking about, but I'd imagine that whenever they're traveling to this spot to meet, they're still traveling in small groups, but coming together for different purposes. Family reunion, Christmas party.
Yeah. Yeah, you gotta watch them. You gotta watch them family units now. I'll say this. whenever we have a family reunion, my dad gets a big kick out of it because I try to get there early, and I sit and watch who brings what in, because they certain people, I'm not going to eat nothing that they fixed. I mean, it may be the best looking chocolate cake there on the range, but I'm out.
Okay.
Okay.
What did you bring, Dave? And I'll always wait and see whatever everybody else likes. The most popular food. That's what I brought.
This is another big question in the Sasquatch group, and you get a lot of diverse answers on this. And is Sasquatch violent or aggressive, or is it more passive?
Well, in my experience, it depends on if you're in their territory, because I've found that they're more passive when they're moving. I was in one area, and I've told you about this before, and it's where we ran out of the area. We were roared at, the loudest roar I've ever heard, and we were forced out of the area. But this was the first night we went down into this area and stayed there. But after a while, we went up in the trees, built a research station 20 feet up in the trees. You could sleep 6 people. And we went down and we stayed there. And over time, they were passive experience. No more roars. We weren't ran out. They'd walk up and they would throw branches at us at night, sticks at this shelter we built up in the trees, but very passive. And most of my encounters have been passive. You might have a tree pushed over, but I wasn't being chased or attacked, or they weren't aggressive. And over at my mom's, my first encounter, it was on the front porch eating cat food with the front door wide open. My mom pointed it out to me. Did I get scared? Yep, I got scared. The only thing it did was walk up in front of the front door, swayed a little bit, and turned and walked off the porch. But it didn't try and come through the door. And I think it's just where you're at the time. If you're new to them, they're going to be more aggressive.
Gwendolyn?
I think I haven't had any aggressive. I mean, I've been paced, but not in an aggressive manner. It's kind of like more of just following you to watch what you're doing. I think as any wild animal, if you corner them or get between them and they're young or whatever, they're going to act aggressive towards you. But I think those instances happen when you push your luck with them. But for the most part, I think they're probably pretty passive.
Excellent. Dave?
I've never heard of a report, honestly, at least in my experience, that pointed to one being aggressive. About the most aggressive thing that I've ever heard, and I'm going to tell this story very badly. You probably all heard of it, about the man who was kidnapped by the creatures, and he was able to escape by opening up his snuff can, and you know what story I'm talking about. That is the most aggressive thing I heard, and honestly, they weren't even that aggressive. I mean, they more or less picked him up, threw him over the shoulder, and took him where he was going. So, but I would agree with Gwen, where I think that if they were cornered, just like any other person or animal, they're gonna have that fight, instinct to do what they need to do.
I'm kind of torn on that one myself. In my first encounter, when I actually had a visual, it was standing at the bumper of my Jeep. So it was about 3 feet from where I was sitting at in the driver's seat. Now, if it wanted to, we were had. Okay. It's no ragtop Jeep, If it wanted to, we were had. And there wasn't really a whole lot that I could do about it. And it just walked on out in front of us and went on down the road. But in the same respects, too, I think that they do have the ability to be aggressive, just like people, For the most part, people are fairly passive. But you do have, in the words of Thomas Seawood, beware the rogue. You do have people, we have all these shootings and everything else that's going on now and things like that. So I think that they do have in their nature, there are some that are aggressive. Now, I'm thankful to God every day that I've never run across one. But
Mhm.
I don't think they're all super aggressive. Like you said, if you corner one, if you get between it and it's young, it's just like a bear. You may be in trouble. But for the most part, I do think that they are fairly calm. But they do, there are certain ones that just absolutely have it out. If you get in their way, they're going to take you out. Okay, this is another weird question. In your own area, so like Pennsylvania, Texas, I think I got Gwendolyn, you're from Pennsylvania, and Dave
Yep.
from Pennsylvania. So we may get different responses from you guys, but from your own areas, from your own states or whatever, what is the best research area?
Mm.
Are you talking about forest type or?
Just wherever you
I'm gonna.
think the best research would be.
I think it's the areas along waterways, riparian forests that are next to the forest or to the water. They always follow the water here. They're always near a creek or where a creek intersects with, say, a river, or you have two creeks that come together. That's always a good area. And I follow basically where you think you're going to find food, white-tailed deer, wild boar, hogs. That's where you're going to find them. So the areas around waterways, the riparian forest.
Excellent. Gwendolyn.
My favorite place to go is the Allegheny National Forest. I've had some of the strangest experiences out there. I got paced out there. And there have been some weird things that I noted that didn't happen. I mean, for example, we had a 5-gallon bucket of apples that we put out in the middle of the field, and nothing came out and touched this bucket of apples. And I thought that was weird because even a deer will come out and get some apples, right? Well, we made dinner the next night, and I put hamburger and potatoes on top of the apples, and still nothing came out and touched them. So it was just one of those weird, that Alleghenies is my absolute favorite place to go. Love it.
That is really bizarre because
I know.
Everything in the woods will eat an apple.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Foxes, coyotes, bears, everything.
Mm-hmm.
That is pretty
Nothing.
wild.
For 3 nights, nothing came out and touched that bucket.
Huh. I may have some questions for that later. Dave, what do you think?
Well, I'll give you 2 spots or 2 areas. One of them that I researched quite a bit is the Black Buchanan State Forest up on Clearfield or Rockton Mountain. And I agree with Glenn again. Alleghenies, I spent a lot of time up there. A lot of strange stuff coming out of there. You're hearing so many different stories, and it's pretty crazy. Up by the Kinzu Bridge, all that crazy. That just it isn't just creature experiences. It's just from you hear stories of portals and just different things like that all over the place, and orbs coming out of the Kinzu the dam area and things like that. It's just a pretty interesting area for sure.
I'll interject. I told you where I like to research. Well, some of the best places here is along the Sulphur River. It would be up outside of the Wright Patman Lake area, and the piney woods of East Texas is probably one of the best places.
I've heard so many crazy stories out of the piney woods.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is phenomenal. Here in Virginia, and I have to be honest about that, it's really sporadic. I really can't nail down. I mean, if I had to come down to 2 things, the Jefferson National Forest, here where I live at, it's prime habitat. It's rugged. It's really steep in places, rocky. It's kind of dangerous, actually. And then 2, I've got to kind of fall back into the Great Dismal Swamp. I think there's there's so much potential there in the Great Dismal Swamp, and I'm gonna steal a line from Boggy Creek there, and Luke knows what I'm talking about. They always follow the bottoms. They're always in the creek.
Mm-hmm.
And my own personal theory about that is that anyway, if you have an animal the size of Sasquatch, you're talking 8 feet, whatever, they're going to require a huge amount of water. A person requires 1 gallon of water a day. So when you're dealing with something like that, and especially like in Luke's area in Texas, where it has the potential to be really dry,
Yeah.
it may require more. I know Old Marine, when we was in the Persian Gulf during Operation Desert Storm and Desert Shield, we would drink almost 5 gallons of water a day just to stay alive. So I think, that water is a really important thing. You've got to have a permanent water source that they can readily access. So if you can go, like I said, to Jefferson National Forest or Dismal Swamp area, or just anywhere where you've got a good amount of forest and game, you have to have animals. You have to have game animals in there, deer, elk, whatever you've got. And if you don't have the water resource or the food resource, there's nothing there. You can write it off. There's absolutely nothing there.
Yep, I agree with that, and I liked Luke's first answer too. He was explaining what he looks for when he, investigates an area, just like you said, a water source and possible food sources and things like that. And I think that's important to look for that stuff, and we always have every time that we go into where we're going into. Where exactly are they drinking? Where could they be getting food from? What something's got to sustain this thing, and it's enormous. I could imagine the amount of berries something like that would have to eat just to keep itself going. So of course then you have to think about game. What's around for it to eat, or even fish or whatever.
We've got a comment here from Bronze Age John. How you doing, JC? Said my sighting was in the Great Dismal Swamp. So yeah, I mean it is there. It's that's a hot bed for real. All right, this was going to sound kind of goofy because I am like the king of cheesy Sasquatch movies. I've watched everyone that's ever hit, that I can watch. And I have to be honest, at the end of them, sometimes I think to myself, well, right there's 90 minutes of my life that I am never going to get back. What is your favorite Sasquatch or Bigfoot film?
Okay. Well, I'm going to have to say my favorite one was The Creature from Black Lake. Was one of my favorite.
Yeah, that was a good.
And then the Legend of Boggy Creek. When I went to go see it in theaters, they wouldn't let me in. It was like, nope, you're too young. Well, come on. But yeah, but I think both those are, because it goes with where I live, and I see that type of country that's in those movies all the time. Matter of fact, it was The Creature from Black Lake was filmed at Cattle Lake, probably 60 miles from where I live. So it was pretty cool. I like those movies.
Excellent. Gwendolyn.
I'm going to go kind of off the side. I grew up, I never believed in Bigfoot before I had my first sighting. So I remember as a little girl watching Harry and the Hendersons, and I thought that was just the greatest movie ever made.
That was the good one.
Yeah. Should Sasquatch be out there, that is the kind of Sasquatch I'd like to hit with my car and take home. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Speaking of movies that you watch and you think 90 minutes of my life I'll never get back, Sasquatch Sunset. If you've not seen it, don't. It is terrible. 5 minutes in, I thought, what kind of movie is this? I was like, are you insane? Yeah, no. I don't recommend that movie at all.
Right.
Yeah, I'm in the minority. I've never seen it, and I really don't have any plans on seeing it.
Don't. It's terrible.
I watched the trailer, and I was like, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm out.
Yeah. Really
Dave?
bad.
I love a good cheesy movie. if the cheaper it's made, the more I like it. I am a Toxic Avenger fan. Um,
Ah.
I just love that stuff. And one of my favorites, I'm gonna have to say, is Bigfoot. At the end of the movie, where it goes up and kicks Alice Cooper in the crotch, and he goes flying up over the hill. Uh, that was a good one. But as far as yeah, as far as new Sasquatch movies, though, I'd say Encounter was pretty good.
Hmm.
I don't know if you
I
got to see
kinda,
that one or not.
No, I
I'm
haven't.
thinking on that one. Was that the one that had? And I can't think of his real name, but it was Greg Brady in it.
The Bigfoot one where he kicks Alice Cooper.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Greg Brady was in there, and
it
yeah,
had one of the Partridge kids in there too, but I can't
yeah,
remember which one it
yeah,
was.
yeah.
Was it
They had
Danny? I think it was Danny.
Yep, it was Danny, and that was a pretty good one. Like I said, if I can, I love walking. I tell you, Mystery Science Theater. Did you guys ever watch that? Mystery
Hmm.
Science Theater 3000?
Hmm.
That's one of my favorite things. I can sit and watch it all night long, even if it's I already watch it. I ran the gauntlet. I don't know how many times. But
Uh, I'm gonna be honest. When I was a kid, I watched The Legend of Boggy Creek, and that scared the absolute crap out of me. Man, when that booger punched its way through that window and tried to grab that dude, I about filled my drawers up.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That one was scary. But in modern movies, uh, I think Big Legend was a pretty good one
That was
as
a
far
pretty
as the
good
modern
movie.
movies
Yeah.
go.
Hmm.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
pretty decent, I thought. Okay, we're going to move on to the next one here. And this is entirely up to your own thoughts. I'm not going to try to lead anything into it. More human or more animal, and why?
Mm.
More human because they have a language. They have more than one language, and I'm working on that with a lot of people right now. It's kind of under the covers, basically. Not
Mm-hmm.
talking much about it, but we're working on it. Had a 4-year study back in the early 2000s and made discoveries. Uh, this year earlier that the study was reopened. It was the Sasquatch syllabus study, and the study's been reopened because there's been some pretty great discoveries. Uh, they are super intelligent. They're more intelligent than chimpanzees or gorillas or any of the other great apes that are out there, except for us. Uh, but yeah, I'm going to say they're more human.
Gwendolyn?
I agree. Definitely more human.
Why?
Definitely more human. Um, it takes quite a bit of knowledge and thought to stay hidden like they do and to live like they do and be able to do the things that they do. Um, Frankly, I think they're probably smarter than we are.
Mhm.
I don't think they get the credit they deserve.
Dave?
I don't have a thought one way or the other. Okay, I want to retract something first off. My first answer, whenever I said that the biggest misconception is that they're flesh and blood, I might have put that in the wrong place. I want them to be flesh and blood,
Mhm.
and I want to think it that way, and I treat it that way for the most part. What I don't want to do, as a person looking into this, is to close my mind into it being this one in particular thing. I guess you know what I mean. I don't want to call it human. I don't want to call it animal. I don't want to even say it's of this world entirely. Uh, Although I want it to be, because if it isn't, ain't none of us figuring anything out.
Right.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I stand. I guess if it was to be flesh and blood, though, I would say more human. It has more, from reports and things. It has a human way about it. Its curiosity was one thing. Um, y- yeah, I just feel like there's something human about it. Yeah.
I kind of waver back and forth on this question myself between like some sort of ancient primate that has not been discovered, or some type of ancient hominoid human that hasn't been discovered. But, and I say this on the show quite a bit too, I see a lot of very intelligent animal behavior. The way it hides, the way it moves, things like that. And with that being said, I don't really see any human intelligence. We all know that they use tools. Okay, they may have a stick that they whack a tree with, or they may have some rocks that they clack together. But I don't see any evidence that they are producing tools, like a chipped stone, or that they're actually shaping a rock to use, for something. So I really get stuck in that. And I think to myself, well, it could be some type of ancient hominid, or it could be some type of ancient primate that we just haven't really got into, because, in the same respects, chimpanzees and gorillas and things like that use tools. And boy, I've really let the time get away from me right here. We're a little over halfway here, but we've got a song lined out, you guys, like we always do. So everybody hang on, and we're going to play a song here.
Uh-oh.
Dave Rupert in Pennsylvania, where the woods are deep, a paranormal griddler, secrets he will keep. He flips the pancakes and he hears the sounds of something large on hallowed grounds. With a laugh in his voice and a twinkle in his eye, he's looking for a Sasquatch passing by. A good friend to have, so easy to share. The paranormal griddler, without a care. Down in Texas, where the air is hot, Luke Gross is looking for what they have got. A great researcher, he's always on the trail, listening to a distant hairy wail. He's a good friend with a heart so true, a Texas researcher through and through. He knows the woods, he knows the signs, looking for the legend between the pines. From Pennsylvania, another friend we find, Gwendolyn Purcell, a special kind. She's not just out there searching for the clue, she's the editor for a magazine too. Strange Knox magazine, a name so grand. She puts the stories in your very hand. A researcher, an editor, a friend to all. She'll be right there to answer any call. These three friends, a circle so close, following a passion where the wild wind blows. From Pennsylvania to the Texas ground, the
That was a good song.
That's
That
a
was
good-
damn good.
You
I
wrote
knew
that,
Luke would
Gary?
like it 'cause it's got that Texas swing to it.
Oh,
Yeah,
That was a good one.
yeah,
that
it
was
was
an
good.
excellent one. That was good.
Okay, we're going to move right along. Stick structures. What do you guys think about stick structures?
Mm.
Yeah.
Everything depends on what you're talking about. Yeah, I know you're talking about stick structures, but what kind? Vertical,
Just
horizontal,
in
in the
general. I'm just saying
tree.
in general.
Oh yeah, they use them. They make them. They put them out there. They can communicate with them. Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
That's what our study's all about.
Mm.
That's true, Bill. True, Bill. Gwendolyn.
I get a little skeptical of them only because I have found some in the woods already that after doing some homework, I discovered that they were made by people that use them as hunting blinds in the middle of hunting season. So now when I come across one, I do my due diligence. I look for hair, I look for scat, I look for, anything that I can find. And if I can't find any of that stuff, I kind of just, it's one of those things I mark in the book, unexplainable, not sure what it is, if it's truly a strict structure, if it's somebody, toying with you or for whatever. But I note them, but I don't put a whole lot into it unless I find evidence to go with it.
Good call. Dave?
Well, I mean, weather does some strange things. We know that. Although we found some stuff that leads me to believe that that they're being made. One of the ones, for instance, we found a small group of trees. The group of trees, they were saplings. They were about 3 inches to 4 inches in diameter. None of them dead, and very much planted. What we found is something bring all these trees. And they were pretty high. Rough guesstimation, maybe 20 feet high, somewhere right around in there. And what we found in a 10-foot radius, something grabbed a hold of these trees and didn't break them, pulled them inwards, and it made a hut. And these things were all, we found this up on a Clearfield Mountain. They were all intertwined in such a way that they held together. Now, my first thought, what I saw it was, I thought, well, something must have blown over and pulled them all in. But there was nothing fell on those trees to pull them all in. And like I said, keep in mind, these things are still planted. And we had 6 of us, I think it was 6, something like that. We had several of us that was able to get under it all at one time. That was very interesting to me. And some of the things, though, like Gwen said, yes, we should keep note of them, but like the X's, you hear a lot of people talk about the X's. I think it's a good thing to keep in the back of your mind. I think sometimes people put way too much thought into that. And then when we do find them, though, what's interesting on some of these structures, like the X's, that how in the world did that happen? Like these trees are literally upside down. Like the one part is, the root system is up high, the other side's down low, and you can't find a place where it came from. You know what I mean? There's no obvious area where the tree was either pulled or broke off or anything like that. So, I mean, that kind of stuff really does, it throws me for sure. And I would imagine if this creature with intelligence was doing stick structures, I would imagine it would be, at least in the way I've always looked at it, was that they are using these as markers to say to the next Bigfoot that, yes, this is a way that you can go, and that this way you will encounter less people, less of a chance to be seen. Just a thought that I had.
I'm kind of really split it down the middle. I think that there are stick structures that Sasquatch is making that might be territorial markers. It might be boundary markers. It might be stuff like that. And then, we can't rule out like the nest that was found by the, Lord have mercy, I just lost my entire train of thought.
Oh no, that's okay. It's that project that
Yeah.
The Olympia.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks.
the Olympic
That's
project.
Yeah.
Lord have mercy. But anyway, I think that those are made, and I think they have it about right that it might possibly have something to do with some type of birthing area or something like that. But then, Dave brought up a good point. You have so many anomalies that can happen. You have geological anomalies. You have snow load. You have wind shear. And you have geological anomalies too. You might have, where the ground gets soaked with water and it rolls off the bank and it forms these big, almost like teepee type structures. I found that.
I think we lost Gary.
Yep, looks like it. Come back, Gary. Come back.
Geez, who's going to ask us questions now?
Yeah, I've found that structure you were talking about, Dave, I found one. Remember, I was saying you where the trash bags were shoved up under the edges of this river.
Yeah.
And these were pine trees, and they were saplings. They were probably 5 inches across, and they were taken and all just bent in. It was in a thicket, a pine thicket, and they were just bent in and all come into a TP shape.
Yeah.
And it was like, holy cow. Then I found another one not far from here. And except they'd taken and brought all these trees together. And this was like 15 feet tall. And they brought it in together. And then it was curved at the top, almost like an umbrella. You remember the, not the tilt-a-whirl, but it was the ride at the carnival that looked like a teacup with a little canopy over it.
Yeah.
And the top of it looked like that, and they bent all the branches that were like that. And I said, wow, that's amazing. I got photographs of that one. And there was freshly broken branches laying around it where they've been working on it. Pretty amazing stuff.
Yeah.
Well, welcome back.
I would like to take this time to...
We just had some rain that come through, and it shut me down.
I'd like to welcome Gary to the show. I'm your host, Dave Rupert.
Nothing like technology, boy. It'll bite you every time. But yeah, like I said, I think certain stick structures are like boundary markers and things like that, and like the nests and things like that. But there's other things that you really got to be skeptical on as far as stick structures go. A lot of the X's, I found explanation for the X's that match, weather-related things or something like that. But now then again, with that being said, too, I found some of the X's that, the root balls are still connected to the trees and they've been drug in there and set up. So, I mean, that's kind of a hard question to answer. And I kind of got to agree with Gwendolyn. You have to be, when you get up to it, you have to be kind of skeptical. But I think, too, if you get up to some type of stick structure and you're looking at it and it's really intricately woven and things like that, I think the very next thing that you should look for is like Monster or Red Bull cans inside of it. That's what or something like that.
I found one down in, I quit researching Salt Fork during any kind of conference down there. We found a stick structure one down there. It was pretty immaculate, and there were prints the whole way around it, and I mean, just anything that any researcher would ever like, it would be in your wildest dreams, and I went inside it and I realized that Bigfoot probably don't know how to tie a square knot, I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
I've heard that same story come out of Salt Fork Somebody's
Yeah,
trying.
it was probably the
somebody's
same
trying to swear
thing.
it off.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, yeah, we quit when we go down there for a conference. That's mainly what it is. You go down for the conference because you got everybody and their brother hooting and hollering back and forth.
Oh,
All right, I'm gonna poke Gwendolyn with a sharp stick on this one. We'll stay in the same order: migrate or home range.
Home range. I don't think they migrate. I think if they, like Gwendolyn said, where they where there's plentiful food sources, and you have to remember they take uh, full. They'll use human agriculture if there's farms around,
mhm.
cornfields, so on and so forth, soybeans, beans, whatever. If there's food around, they have no reason to go anywhere else. I know they've been around. Where I had my first encounter, they were there, and they stayed around there for over 30 years. And I had 2 sightings there, two visual sightings, and one on a thermal camera.
Mm.
So yeah, I think they have a home range. How far it is, I don't know. At least 78 miles. So
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Gwendolyn.
I'm gonna stick with the home team advantage because even a bear only travels so many miles. It stays within that miles, and they're always saying that you can relate Bigfoot to a bear, that they kind of go after the same type of things and eat the same type of foods. A bear isn't going to Florida for the winter either. You know, they have an area that they stay in, and I think as long as the food and the water is there, they're going to stay. They're going to stay where they're comfortable. They're going to stay where they know the area. I mean, that's their living room, their bedroom, their kitchen. They know where everything is. If you take something out there and you put it in the woods, I don't care if it's a dime, they're going to notice that something is different out there. That is their home. And I don't think they travel. I think they stay within an area, you know, like Luke said, whatever mileage that is, I think they stay in that area unless they have to leave.
Dave?
I'm going to go a little different on this one. I do think that we do have some that stick around, but that have a home range and probably a huge home range. I mean, you think about a bear. When you see a bear in one spot, it's sometimes up to 2 weeks before you see it back at that spot. Sometimes longer. Where it's doing this. Is doing a circle or whatever it does. It's just doing its travels. But I do believe that there could be, and I don't want to say migration. I don't think they're moving around for warmth like a bird. I think I want to call it nomadic. I think they're nomads. Where you hear the guys talk about. Now I'm going to probably say this all wrong because I'm horrible about repeating stories. But one of the theories that I liked a lot was I want to call it the Sasquatch Highway. I probably got that all wrong, but it was a forest pathway from it was like northern Ohio, northern Pennsylvania, up into Canada, and across to the Washington State, out across the whole up through Canada and all that jazz like that. I don't know if you ever heard of that. I listened to a guy speak on that one time, and which I thought was very interesting. And what a way to stay undetected is to not stick in a spot. I think sticking in one spot, even if it's like a 10-mile radius, let's say, you're still the chances have greatly increased that you're going to be seen. Now I do agree that, like you said, Gwen, that they're more familiar, but I have a feeling that these things, much like a lot of other, I guess I want to say, animals where they have this natural born instinct on where it's implanted on travel ways, things like that. It's possible. It could be. I'm completely and totally wrong. I'm pulling this out of my head. Just things that I thought about and things I've heard, but I think it's very possible that they're nomadic.
I'm gonna hop in there and say this. I'm gonna steal pieces from every one of you guys, and this is always my kind of theory on it. Yeah, they do have a home range, and they do nomadically move within that home range. But in that respect, too, I think that once it gets to a point to where the food sources are beginning to deplete in that one area. Like Luke said, they may come into an agriculture area where you have beans, you got corn, whatever, and they'll feed in that area until that resource dries up, and then they'll move someplace else to where they know that there is another crop that's come in, or they may move to a wintering area that's a little more secluded so they can kind of hunker down and stay in one spot a little longer. And I think the highway you was talking about, I think there was like another one too that they talked about, like going up through Washington and up into Canada. I think they called it the Sasquatch corridor or something like that.
Yeah, that's it. Thanks. Sasquatch corridor. It was from Washington State up into Canada. It came the whole way across the United States, and it almost like it was dumping grounds of Ohio, Pennsylvania, up along them top. Yeah.
And I think that the home range of Sasquatch is a lot bigger than any of us are willing to say. Luke says 78 miles. Okay. And I'm going to say this too, as an old Marine, we have not really ran, but we force marched 25 miles in a day. And that's with an 85-pound pack on our back and all this other stuff. And we can do 25 miles in a day. Now, they're quite a bit bigger than us, quite a bit stronger than us, and a whole lot more familiar with this wooded area. I think they may be able to cover a lot more ground. And it may be hundreds of miles at a time. So I think you have one that's in, which, like I said, I live close to Kentucky and West Virginia and Tennessee and all that, but you may have one in Tennessee today, and it could be in Kentucky tomorrow. So I think that that's really possible.
Yeah, good thoughts.
Next question. Where do you think that the Sasquatch mystery will be solved at?
That's a good one. I personally, I watched a lot of the old timers, Renee DeHinden, Grover Krantz. They never seen it solved. I don't think it'll be solved within our lifetime, to be honest with you. But I really don't. So I couldn't really say when it will be solved. But it would be nice, and the only way it will be solved, and I wouldn't be the one to do it, is but they're going to want one on a slab. The scientists will, and I'm totally against that. Totally.
Yeah.
Gwendolyn?
I agree with Luke. I don't ever want to see one killed. And to be honest, I hope we never solve it, because even if we do, I'm still going to go out there because there's still questions. I don't care if we do get one on a slab. There's still questions that need to be answered. And
lots of those.
Lots of them.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, from the day I started researching till today, I have way more questions than I ever will get answers. And I'm content with that. I like a good puzzle. So, I mean, do we want to know? Absolutely, we know. But the four of us sitting here, we already know. We already know that they're real and that they're out there. And to me, that's all I care about. I don't need one on a slab, but
no,
I don't think we're ever going to see it in any of our lifetimes. I don't think it's going to happen.
Dave?
Well, Gary, I think they're going to find it here at the Keystone State, Pennsylvania.
I'm good with it.
Yeah, no, honestly, I'm with everybody else. I don't think they're going to solve it. Maybe it will. But where they do, I have no clue whatsoever where it will ever happen. I was just interviewed this weekend. I don't know if you guys ever heard of Small Town Monsters. Yeah. Small Town Monsters came up here last weekend and interviewed us, and they asked me about something similar to what you asked there, and I said, I'm not gonna prove nothing to anybody. My goal is I want my experiences, and just like I told my wife thought I was sappy for saying that, but my experiences is right here, and although to me I proved it to myself, I've convinced myself but I could, as far as you're concerned, I could be sitting here lying to you. But right here is where it's at, and I mean that's what it is. And I think to be a researcher, you just have to be somebody that's in this field at all. You first and foremost realize that you're going to walk away from this more broke than whenever you started.
True that.
That's not a lie.
We got to get that out of our heads. I'm telling you that right now. The whole idea of getting rich on this got to go away. All right, that's got to go. But I just think we have to be happy with ourselves, be happy with the forest, and be happy with what we experience. And if we do find something out, great. If we don't,
great too.
And we can't prove it, that's great too. Because I tell you, it isn't always about what Sasquatch sighting or what Sasquatch experience we had. It is about the people you meet along the way, which is probably the quintessential. That I have met so many amazing people, and as Luke and Gwen and Gary, I got to meet you, and which I've never, probably our paths would have never ever passed in a million billion years if it wasn't for this field. And I think once we start looking at it that way, instead of saying, that I'm going to be famous, well known, and very rich, that once we get away from that, maybe, just maybe, this field won't implode on itself.
Right.
You're well said. Well said, though.
I'm just going to be honest. I'm going to live forever, so I'll probably see it. With that being said, Dave, you might want to put on your tinfoil hat.
I got it on already. It's underneath this one.
In my own opinion, that the government probably already does have some type of specimen.
Yeah.
So I'm not, as far as going out and killing the Sasquatch, I don't agree with that.
No.
I'm not trying to step on any toes or anything, but when I say that, I'm saying that we're probably dealing with probably the most endangered species on the planet. Okay, and this is worldwide. This is not just here in the United States. That's one thing too. I think a lot of Bigfoot people get in their head that it's just here. It's not. It's worldwide. It's worldwide. And I think by taking one, that might be detrimental to the species, because you may take out an alpha male that has, like we said, hundreds of miles of territory that he's breeding females in that territory, and he's dead. And then I'm gonna fall back on the same thing too. Okay, let's say you come up on a specimen that's already deceased. Bear got it, somebody shot it and run off, whatever. You come up on one that's deceased. Okay, you present that to science, and I'm a firm believer that they're going to say, okay, well, great, we've got this male subject that was found deceased, blah, 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 whatever. We'd like to see a female so we could research their reproductive organs. So then it's going to be a never-ending series of, we've got to take this one, and we've got to take this one, and we've got to take this one. And I don't agree with that. I think that's going to be detrimental to the population overall. Now, here's another question that kind of goes along with that. Population. Do you think Sasquatch population is increasing? Or is it about the same as it's always been?
I think it depends on where they live, because, and I think in the amount of wildlife that's in an area, it depends. Like here in Texas, we are overrun with wild boar, with feral hogs everywhere. Well, if you take the mountain lion will increase its numbers. They'll start having more babies, the females will. If the food population is greater, they will start having more babies. And if not, they won't. I think it kind of goes along the same lines with Sasquatch. If there's enough food to support a larger population, then I think you'll have more Sasquatch, more Bigfoot. If not, I think the numbers will be lower. And Texas is full of food, agriculture. Agriculture, wild fruit, wildlife in general. It's amazing. Even I've noticed that the changes during when the vegetation is plentiful, you have calves, for instance, that are left out on these ranchers' property. And these are, there's trees and creeks running by and beltways where these Bigfoot are basically moving from one area to the next. But come on, January, February, the calves that are born, they start being preyed on. And these aren't just normal predations. These are stomachs ripped open and torn apart, leg bones snapped and broken. It wasn't done by coyotes, mountain lions, or anything else. But the predation goes up in January. And the closer to summer, when the vegetation starts to become more, the less calf kills you have. So I think it totally depends on if there's more food in an area to support a larger population. That's my answer, and I'm sticking to it.
That's a good one.
I think too, a lot of it, I agree with Luke completely. There's a lot to be said about how much food's available for them. I too think we are also exploding in population, and we are tearing forests down at an alarming rate. And, people just destroy everything we touch. I mean, let's just put it that way. I mean, I think if I had to be if I had to guess, I would say that they're probably holding steady, only because it's all in where they're at and what the population of people looks like, and how much forestry they have to hide out in. I mean, some areas are just forestry is getting wiped off the map, and they can't hide there, so they have to go somewhere else. And that could potentially, like Luke said, it could potentially stop their reproduction cycle, because who wants to be carrying around a baby when you're trying to find a new place to live? So I don't know. That's a tough question.
Dave?
I think you'd have to look at this like, okay, where are you? I do not believe that Pennsylvania could sustain a population as much as like Washington State or different areas or different places in Canada. I think populations are probably matched up to where they are at, as far as that. But again, here I'm going to be the weirdo. How do we know if there's somewhere else how big that population is? I don't know. That's a hard call. It really is. If it is somewhere else, then the populations could be a lot more enormous than what we realized here on Earth itself. And yes, Gary, I do have my tinfoil hat on. I'd like to go back to that if you don't mind. Do I think that the government knows more? I think so. I've put my tinfoil hat on a long time ago during 9/11. And also I put it on during COVID. I put two tinfoil hats on. I think everything is very possible. As far as when it comes to the government, I think they're more capable of things that we don't realize. They know things that we don't know. They don't trust us to react in the right way. At least they think that, like, they're trying to be the babysitters, and they're no good at it. My tinfoil hat's on, and I think about the repercussions if they actually did say, yes, we have evidence there is a Sasquatch, it is real. Could you imagine? It would absolutely destroy the logging It would destroy
yeah.
recreation. It would destroy recreation.
Absolutely.
There's so many impacts in our economical world that could just crush it.
Look what happened when the spotted owl was discovered in Oregon, I believe it was. Yeah, shut everything down. Everything.
Yep. I mean, just here in my little town, they wanted to make a roadway, and there was a little swath of forest in here that they wanted to cut down to make this roadway happen. And they discovered that there was a species of owls living in that little area, and it stopped the whole thing dead, right there. Could you imagine? Could you imagine? I mean, there would be no longer any more expansion for people. I mean, we would no longer be. We would be stuck right where we're at if that really was brought out. That so they have a very good reason to keep it secretive, and I have a very good reason to put on 3 tinfoil hats at one time.
That's a good call. That's a good call. I'm going to tell you right now. Me myself, like I said, I'm a firm believer that they have one. And you were talking about the timber industry, which, like Luke said, the timber industry was hurt for a period of time with the spotted owl.
Yeah.
But if you'll notice, the timber industry is still alive and kicking.
Mm-hmm.
My thing is, if it is proven that the industries that will be hurt the most will be your outdoor industries. There are not going to be a lot of people who are willing to spend several $1,000s to go out to Colorado and live in a tent for 2 weeks and hunt an elk if there's an 8-foot tall monster out there.
Yeah. I mean, most people already think that we're nuts for doing what we're doing. Just.
But yeah, that's the thing. And like my thoughts on it, honestly, I actually kind of believe that. I think the population, at least here within the U.S. Now, I can't say globally because I am an international man of misery, but I haven't been out of the state for a long time. But I think here in the U.S. that there is an increase in population, and I'm not going to say it's a huge increase, but I think that there is an increase because you have people now that are having more sightings in areas where, you've never had sightings before. So I actually think that it is increasing. And I think it's 100% to do with what Luke said, the food resources. Like right here in my county, growing up in my county here in Virginia, as a child growing up, I was born in 1969, and I left in 1988. I joined the Marines and, did my 4 years in the Marines. But until the time that I was 18, from my birth until I was 18, I saw 1 deer in this county. Okay, that's the only deer I ever saw. You would see a turkey occasionally, not very often, just occasionally. But now you can't step outside of I can't walk my dog, okay, unless I look outside and make sure there's not 4 or 5 deer standing in my backyard. Mm-hmm. So I think there's an increase in wild feed for them. Like the big thing right now that's coming around is we have pawpaws here. I don't know if you guys even know what I'm talking about, but it's a food. So pawpaws are big right now. So all your animals are working around the pawpaw trees. We have blackberries, raspberries, autumn olives. That is the most invasive thing I have ever seen before in my life, but it's got these little dead berries on it, and everything in the woods loves them. So I think there is an increase of food, and I think it is increasing the population.
Gary, I think you got to help out your northern brethren here and tell me what a pawpaw tree is.
A pawpaw is, and it's weird. It's a wild fruit, and they're kind of oblong, and they're about that long. Yeah.
Okay.
And they're green, and they smell when they get ripe. They turn black.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
And they smell like a cross between a banana and maybe a pumpkin or something like that. And the flesh is real soft, it's like a papaya.
Okay. Can you eat them?
Yeah, and they're pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah. You can use the same recipe for banana bread, make pawpaw bread out of it. That stuff will make your tongue beat your brains out.
That's awesome.
Really good. Really good. All right, I'm about a half hour over here, but that's all right. We've got 2 more questions and we'll get through them. Bury the dead or eat the dead?
Ooh.
Very dead. Well, I will say this. I can't answer it definitely, but I have been out in the woods, deep in, and I found these large mounds. And I said, "No, why is this mound here?" Now, it could have been due to the Native American population back in time, but on several occasions, and there was 55. The area I was in was 55,000 square acres, and you could go deep and never see a person for weeks. But I would find these mounds, and I never messed with them. Had one person who said, "Well, we need to dig into one of those," and I said, "No, we do not need to dig into one of those, not at all, just in case," because I didn't know what they were. I said, "Well, maybe it's a burial site, and out of respect, I would never do that." So, if anything, I believe they would bury their dead instead of eat their dead.
Gwendolyn?
I don't necessarily think they eat their dead. I mean, even chimpanzees and gorillas don't eat each other. They, I do believe they do something with them. They've got to bury them. I don't know what else they would do. Otherwise, you'd be tripping over them. I mean, one of the questions I get asked the most is, where are the bones of a Bigfoot? And I tell people, how many people are in the world? Billions of people. You should be tripping over dead bodies everywhere you go. What makes you think you're going to find a Bigfoot? There's not that many. I mean, they're not near as many Bigfoot as there are people. So I don't know what makes people think that they're just going to trip over Bigfoot bones out in the woods somewhere. So I would have to say that they probably bury them. I don't know that they'd eat. I don't know. I'd hate to think that they eat each other, but that, people eat each other sometimes too. So who knows?
Dave?
Never thought about this before. So good thought experiment though. I've seen mountains just like Luke did in different places. Not sure what they are whatsoever. I like the time-lapse video they did. I think it was on Monster Quest a long time ago. They did a time-lapse video on how fast nature reclaims, which is kind of interesting. It was pretty quick. I mean, amazingly quick. They also talk about, like Gwendolyn said, that, why don't we see the bones? Well, unless you're a bone expert, you probably won't know what the hell you're looking at. Now let's go to eating each other, eating their dead. I think it's possible, dude. I mean, let's think about it. How many times throughout our history have we had to turn to eating our dead? I had a dog, man, that I called just in case. I love to eat. I think it's very possible in some situations, especially in a lack of food. And we talked about the enormity of this creature and what it takes to sustain one. If you are lacking in food and you're hungry enough, pretty soon your buddy's going to start looking like a hot dog.
I'll say this. I'm no anthropologist. Okay. I just barely got through high school. Thank God. But with that being said, if you look throughout prehistory, there are all kinds of signs that Homo sapiens, Neanderthals, and Denisovans have actually butchered and ate their own dead. In Gwendolyn, I'm going to try to, and I'm not trying to be a smart aleck now. Okay?
No.
But chimpanzees and gorillas both have been documented eating their own kind. Yes, ma'am.
That's not a subject I've looked into.
Chimpanzees will hunt monkey species for meat. So I think there's a huge possibility that, and like you said, in a time of dire emergency, that if one passes away, they're on the menu. And then again, too, I've got to agree with Luke. I think a lot of them are buried. But with the Monster Quest thing that you was talking about, Dave, just a little bit old redneck mountain boy intuition, it only takes about 7 days
Yeah.
for a carcass to completely disappear in the forest. It's phenomenally fast.
But it's
Because
less than
you have all the predators that are going after the meat. You have mice. You have squirrels. Even deer will eat bones for the calcium that's in them.
Yep.
So there's a real slim chance that you're going to find a pristine bone anywhere unless it has been buried.
Well, one of the things that I've always said that you know, and I live in bear country, black bear country, that is, and they even come into our little neighborhood here quite often. But one of the things I've never seen, one time I've seen them, but I think it was a poacher. But I've never seen a naturally killed corpse of a bear. I've never ran up on one. I don't know any of you guys.
No.
I ran into 3 of them. They were all in one place, and you could see somebody poached them. They were laying right beside each other. They were opened up. I think they're after the gallbladder of the bear. I think that's marketable. So they were opened up. Of course, I don't know what I'm looking for when I'm looking inside. You know what's the gallbladder and what's missing or anything like that. That's the only time that I have found a bear carcass laying anywhere. So take it for what it's worth, but. And like you said, okay, so you said 7 days. It takes 7 days for reclaim, but I think it takes less than that to make it unrecognizable.
Yeah, it doesn't take long at all.
Yeah.
Between insects and maggots and things like that, it does not take long at all for a carcass to completely disappear in the woods.
Yeah,
and, like I said, you're not going to find a bone unless it has been buried. And like here, we have a lot of deciduous forest. We have a lot of oaks. It's really similar to Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
It's probably quite a bit different than Texas because Texas is a lot warmer climate. But we have a lot of oaks and things like that have a lot of tannic acids and things like that in it, and they will eat away bones pretty quick, even if they are buried. So if you do find a grave, the chances of really digging into it and finding something that you could use would be really slim, I think. So I'm kind of on the fence. I think, they will bury them, if times are good, and if times are hard, I really think they're going on the menu. I really do.
Yep. I do agree with Luke though when he says, we both said we've seen the mounds. I can't. I would never be able to bring myself to dig into one. Although maybe a person. I don't even want to say they should, but I'm not that kind of person. I'm not going to disturb something that
right.
Is important. Just that's.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. I'm not, because you may be stirring up more than you can handle.
For sure.
If they are burying it and you go in there and dig that up, they could see that as a desecration, and that could.
Oh man! That's punishable by death right there. Yeah.
Okay, then the last question for tonight. And like I said, I know we're over time, but it's all right. Best. Well, actually, I've got 2 more. Best research tool.
Best research what?
Tool.
Best research tool?
Yes, sir.
Here we go with, you can either say technology. Well, back when I first started, we didn't have a lot of this technology that's here today. And I used my eyes, my ears, and my nose when I researched. A listening device. I had a parabolic dish. I used that. I didn't have thermal. I didn't have hardly anything. I had a micro recorder, digital recorder. When I first started, I used a cassette player to record all my sounds. So I think now, though, personally, I think you have more luck with recording vocalizations and sound than you do getting anything on camera,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
because you put a game camera up, I found they don't come around. I ruined one of my areas that way. But I put a digital recorder out, a voice recorder, and I caught all kinds of things. They would walk right up to it. I hear the footprints. They mess with the recorder. They weren't worried about it at all. So I would say the three things I said: eyes, nose, and your ears, and then something to record sound with. That's me personally.
I'm going to have to say it's, technology fails. So you always have to rely on your good old senses. But probably the best thing I've used is a voice recorder.
Dave?
Oh boy, they stole what I want to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. I agree with Luke. I agree with Gwen. Your eyes, your ears, your nose, and that's some of the most important things. Now, the funnest thing, I recently, my wife took me to me and my wife went to a sportsman show, and I walked away with a thermal, which she'll never take me to a sportsman show again. But I tell you what a blast! I love my thermal. It's really cool. It's just a monocular, but it does an awesome job. It shoots up to about a mile and a half. It'll go through all the different color thermal. It will also record, which is really cool, and take photos, which was pretty awesome. First one I found like it. I enjoy it. I use it mostly here. Like I watch the deer come down through the yard and stuff like that here. But I'll take it out. I don't know. Like there's I've taken it on several investigations, like where we saw something, but even a thermal don't show you what it is. It's got to be pretty dang out in the open to you know what I mean? I mean, you can see a heat signature, but unless that thing's sitting in the middle of a trail and posing for you, even a thermal don't work all that great. I do like the parabolic mic. I have a small, cheap one. I tried to build one time. I was getting into electronics, and I was sitting down and messing with it. And when I finally got it all done, I put the batteries in, and I filled my house full of smoke. It didn't work out for me at all.
No.
Yeah, something burned up. It wasn't good. But just this is where we start losing our money. This is a funny thing, I said it not too long ago. I said we're going to leave this field with less money than we walked into it, and that's where it happens. Do I think that technology hinders what we're doing? At times, I think we do. I think going into woods or going into an investigation, even if it's a ghost investigation, which I do that also when you're looking for spirits, things like that. Sometimes technology hinders instead of helps. Yeah. Sometimes I think we are, and I'm going to get a little bit weird on you. I think we're more connected to things than we allow ourselves the chance to know. I think we feel things, and I've had that experience. That again, if you're too heavily relying on equipment, that you're not going to feel it. You're not going to experience that. A lot of times, I think just going out, allowing yourself to have the experiences, feel the place, become a part of it. That's the big deal right there. That's where rubber meets the road.
Well, I'm gonna say this, and you guys have some great answers. My own personal thing, the best research tool that you can have is common sense. Okay.
Yeah.
And by saying that, what I'm boiling down to is not everything that you hear, see, or smell in the forest is Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm.
You should know the terrain. You should know what you're doing. Carry something with you. And I keep going back to this too. We lost 2 researchers in December of last year. They froze to death. Okay, if you're only going to do like an hour's hike somewhere, you should at least pack like maybe some snack bars and water with you.
Mhm.
You know, don't go unprepared. Use some common sense. You're going into the forest. You know,
Excuse
try
me.
to try to use some common sense. That's my big thing.
I'd agree with that 100%. And it don't take much to get yourself a little bit informed to pack or get things ready. That what if there's an overnighter? What if this or that? I'll tell you, my very first investigation was with my young family at the time, and me and my wife probably was married for about a year and a half. Nope, sorry, scratch that. We were married about 5 years, and our sons were old enough. They were about in the neighborhood of 5, 6 years old, maybe a little older than that. We got a call, and we had this investigation to go do, and we met up with the witnesses up in Ridgeway, and up towards the Allegheny National Forest. And so at that point in my life, I never carried. And we got out of the truck in the middle of the Allegheny National Forest, and I looked at the headliner, or up on the headliner of the truck, and they have shotguns. I got a pocket knife, dude. You got to start thinking to yourself. Honestly, I guess what I'm driving at is start thinking about your safety, your security, whether it be a gun, whether it be just getting ready for any kind of situation that's going to hit you. Maybe you're going to have to spend a couple days out in those woods.
Mhm.
You never know, and you should always go in prepared. And another thing that kind of drives me nuts, and a lot of people do it, and I 100% understand, but going solo is a bad idea.
Oh, that's terrible
Bad
idea.
idea.
I agree with that. And something that I always say too, and it's kind of the old Marine that's in me, but failure to prepare is preparing to fail.
Mhm.
Yeah.
If you don't have some means, I mean, and it's the basics: food, water, and fire.
Mhm.
If you don't have some means of doing any of that, you're in trouble. And this is going to hurt a lot of the young kids' feelings or whatever. A cell phone is not a flashlight. That
No,
battery
sir.
is very limited.
No,
Very limited.
Yeah.
it's not a flashlight or a GPS.
Yeah.
Right.
Or a GPS. Yeah.
It's very limited. And, my wife gets mad at me because I have bags made that I put in my vehicle. And like during the winter, I have a bag that I'll put in my vehicle that I have a wool blanket in. I have extra socks in. I have gloves in. I have a little butane stove with its own butane supply and everything else, so that if I get out and I get stuck in the snow, I have ways of staying warm. I have ways of, one of these small candles will heat up the inside of your vehicle and prevent you from freezing to death.
Right.
So it's, that's a really important thing. And last question of the night. Skookum cast. Is it
What?
Sasquatch or Succotash?
Well,
One more time.
The Skookum cast.
Oh, okay.
Is it Sasquatch or Succotash?
well, I think there's been a lot of people that's 50-50 split on the Skookum cast. For one, I've seen it in person. It was in Ohio at the conference in '99. And I personally didn't see Sasquatch or Bigfoot. I said elk is what I've seen in the cast. There's a lot of elbows where it looked like an elk had laid down. And some say, well, this is a butt print. So I probably make a lot of people mad, but I think it's an elk.
Gwendolyn.
I have not seen that cast, to like physically touch it and see it. I've seen photos of it, and I don't know. I don't know if it's legit or not. I don't have an opinion on it.
Dave.
I wasn't there. Unfortunately, I wasn't there when it was taken. I think again, I'm going to go back to where the things that I tell you. I found this I found his structure, I pulled it in, their personal experiences and things that I get to take with me. Now, if I'm lying to you, I'm going to feel really bad when I go to bed tonight.
Mhm.
And if the Skookum guys, if that's the, if they're lying, that, I hope they're not losing any sleep. But I'm going to have to take it. I'm going to have to take their word for it. I'm going to say it's real. I think we lost Gary again, and tonight's show
Yeah.
was brought to you by.
Yeah, I'm back.
Oh.
I think one of the alphabet agencies is seeding the clouds above my satellite internet.
I think it's 3-Eye Atlas going through our atmosphere, and it's just messing things up. But go ahead.
Yeah.
I have to be honest. I can actually kind of see both sides of it. I can see elk, and too, they point out and say, "Oh, here's the butt print of it." And there's one part where it's been studied several times by science, and they say that it's an imprint where you can see the ligament of like a bipedal animal. And I'm going to fall back with Dave. I wasn't there. I really don't know.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that I would have liked to have been there to see, and kind of had a little more feel for it. But if I'm not mistaken, it was cast really close to the road. Is that correct, Luke?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Then it being cast really close to the road, that kind of throws up some red flags almost, because I don't see the Sasquatch walking up to the edge of the road and just sitting down in the mud.
Mm-hmm.
And I could be 100% wrong. I don't know, and that's one of those things. I wasn't there to see it, so I really can't say on it. I really can't. But now,
do you remember? Do you remember the freezer Bigfoot? Do you remember that? Where they claimed it was a big thing that these researchers, they have a Bigfoot specimen. It was stuck in a freezer. Do you remember that, Gwen?
I
can you help
do.
me out with
Minnesota
this?
Iceman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
There, in this field, we got to take people's word for it. We have nothing else to go on other than their word. And unfortunately, there was some researchers, good ones too, that got their name tied in with that because they were supporting it at the time. Only because they, just like we all do, we have to take the person's word for it.
Mm-hmm.
But those researchers got knocked for that horribly. And I think we got to back away from that a little bit and give them the benefit of the doubt. You understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
I agree wholeheartedly. I've seen the Minnesota Iceman. I did in 1972 at the Pima County State Fair in Arizona. And what I've seen, I was just a kid. What I've seen and what I smelled was not what the plastic figure they're showing now. It did not look that way, and it looked like a dead Bigfoot to me. Is what
I'm going to say this. I'm glad Luke brought that up, because as far as the Minnesota Iceman goes, I think, and again, I think I'm not there, but I think the original Minnesota Iceman may have been a legit specimen, and the heat just got too hot, and the guy got rid of it. And just started, used a
prop,
plastic or rubber, whatever it was, because there's been lots of people, like the first scientific study, like when they got into the ice, that they said there was this horrible stench that come up. And
there was a horrible stench when you walked in the room.
Yeah.
It
and later they said that, you couldn't smell anything around it. So, I don't see that being the same thing.
Right.
I see it being different.
My only issue with it is a lot of researchers that were excited about it and kind of was hooked into it, where they were gone down. There was a researcher from Pennsylvania New York that was going down to look into this. He took a big hit when all of a sudden they realized, oh, this isn't real. I don't believe he should have got that hit. He should have been able to take that person as word, and I am going to go down and I'm going to see what this is really all about.
Yeah, that's something too.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm bad for that. Okay. I have a certain percentage that I have to be sure that it's factual.
Right.
And a certain percentage that it could be hoax before I'll even go look at it. And if the percentage of it being real is less than the percentage of it being factual or being faked, I won't go look at it. It has to be, I call it 5149, and I was taught that by a guy from Minnesota, and I loved it, and I hung on to it. I have to be 51% sure that it's real, 49% that it's fake. If it's the other way around, I won't even talk about it.
I've heard some pretty fantastical stories about, all kinds of stuff. And again, I wasn't there when the stuff happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I will just document what I'm being told. And then I say, will you take me there?
Mm-hmm.
I want to go. I want to go to where you had your encounter. I want to see for myself.
But Gwen, you should feel free to do that without feeling any repercussion from the field. That's the problem. I remember back in, it would have been the early 2000s in Jersey Shore, Pennsylvania. I don't know if you remember the purple squirrel.
Mm-hmm.
They found a purple squirrel in there, and they asked me to go on air the news and wanted me to talk about the purple squirrel. Well, shit, I'm not looking into purple squirrels. I'm looking into Sasquatch. But so yeah, but my first instinct was nope. They're gonna all think I'm nuts.
Yep.
When I kind of wish I would have done a little bit, because they did find out it really was a purple squirrel, and it was eating. I think it was eating some grapes, maybe, or no, blackberries. It was eating blackberries, and it came out through its hair as it grew, and it literally turned purple.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
I've done the same thing on one report. Matter of fact, I did it on this show years and years ago, and I've always been one to follow through on a report. I mean, turn every stone over and make sure that it's real.
Mm-hmm.
And you can ask Billy about it. It was about the glow-in-the-dark blue penis Sasquatch who's running down a mountain. Just ask him about that story.
Did he just say piano?
Nope.
I invested.
Just for the sake of argument, we're going to say wobbler. It was a glow in the dark blue wobbler.
Blue wobbler.
Blue wobbler. Well, guys, this has been a blast, but we're working on almost 2 hours, so I'm gonna have to end it. I would like to ask you guys to hang on after we shut down the show, if it's cool. If it's cool with everybody, if it's not too late. Once again, for all the guests and everything that's out there, I really appreciate it. I'd like to thank Joey Stanley and Logan Kendrick for the likes and stuff. Appreciate you watching tonight, son. That's awesome. Guys, I really appreciate you guys. This has been a great panel. I've really enjoyed this. I know it was a long show, but I have really enjoyed this. And I would like to encourage everybody to come back on next Monday night, 9:00 p.m. Eastern time. We'll have Lyle Blackburn. So I hope everybody tunes back in. That should be an excellent show. But with that being said, I'd just like to wish everybody a good night and have a great rest of your week. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
All right.
Thanks for tuning in to Sasquatch Watch Radio. We truly appreciate each and every one of you. Stay connected. Don't miss our next exciting show, airing next Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. To stay updated, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'd also love for you to join our Facebook page at facebook.com/Sasquatch Watch Radio and check out our website at squatchradio.com. facebook.com. Share your stories and feedback. Your feedback means the world to us. So please give us a thumbs up on our shows and let us know what you think. Have you had an encounter? If you've had a sighting or encounter, we want to hear from you. Reach out to us through our website, YouTube channel, or Facebook page. And if you're interested in being a guest on our podcast, please don't hesitate to contact us. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next Monday night.